I think all I'm suggesting at this point is that what happens within, what happens as a coordinate, what happens as a microcosm develops and becomes new and becomes that focus which can potentially move us forward. And that's that moving us forward. It's that education of that process that allows us to step into a new zone, to step into ourselves. And it's that stepping into that I want to consider, and consider why. Consider why it's useful, why it's eligible, and why it's appropriate. And through that stepping in, through that process of investigating, through that process of challenging and exploring, through that process, it's there that I want to consider what to do next and why. Allowing us to consider it, allowing us to expand on it and moving from one point to the next, allowing us to reposition ourselves will eventually take us into that new zone, into that new environment that I've been talking about. Knowledge production scenarios, KPS. The KPS is the knowledge production scenarios. Those scenarios will only take us from this point to this point. Whereas actually what we want to do is travel. We want to travel and make that shift and make that journey from one to the next. And it's only when that journey can be reconfigured and dilated that dilation can allow us to really interrogate that space and to interrogate why we're interrogating it. It's simple, really, and its simplicity is in the space and the environment that we're looking at. As you can see, there are certain points, certain locations, certain existences that I want to look at, and why we're looking at them is something we'll consider at a later date. But at this stage, these environments that we're exploring will become clearer and clearer and clearer as we progress through the course and through the territories, essentially, that we're examining. And while that's happening, that's when you can step into and take ownership of and become that process and become that person that wants to exude and wants to give and wants to enable others to step into. And it's that stepping into of the logical process zone, the LPS, the logical process zone, which will then open up environments for you and open up spaces for you. That's the key. It's these spaces that we're looking at. It's these environments that we're exploring. It's these shapes that I need to convince you is part of the next journey, part of a next accomplishment, part of a next satisfactory environmental zone, SEZ, that we can consider. I need to implore and employ and imply and amplificate and amplifizate and implementate and amplify this area into considering why. And it's looking at and exploring these areas. That's what I'm really interested in, and how that exploration can challenge our viewpoints as we trigger new spaces, new feats. It's the zones that I'm interested in and why these zones are even here and how these zones exist. That's what the challenge, that's where I want you to be, and that's what I'm interested in developing out of this session. Through the process of moving, generating, positioning, exploring, reshaping, reshuttling, acknowledging these environments that shift, that explore, that move. Why? Through a critical thinking that will continually revisit the previous sentence, that will continually revisit the previous set of knowledge beliefs. It's that continual reassessment that shakes up the knowledge formation as it progresses. So it's that give and take of understanding that comes before, that progresses, and that develops into new understanding. But it has to start at that pinnacle moment. It has to start at that moment of inquiry. But then that moment of inquiry steps back and steps back again before it steps forward 3 times. And it's that inquiry that we need to consider and value. Otherwise, knowledge has little value in this context.